Today we're going to talk about why your first owner-occupied home is never going to be a good investment.
Shit, Jared, where were you when I was buying my first home and moved into it in Singleton? I wish I would have heard these timeless pieces of advice when I was buying my first home, because trying to build wealth through the first home that you live in is a bit like trying to light wet wood. You'll be there forever.
You get a lot of good advice from family when it comes to buying the first asset, the first home. Everybody needs somewhere to live, and it is a very important pillar of building wealth. But when it comes to the next step and buying the forever home, constantly get advice. And dad told me, my uncle told me, got to keep that property. You don't sell property.
I've already got two. Why would I sell the first one? But what happens most of the time is you use the first home, you use the equity in the first home to go and buy your new forever home, your new family home. What ends up happening is you've got 100% debt on your family home. Bad debt. Bad advice, especially because it really hamstrings you. It's a bit like the old 35-year-old footballer running down the sideline, trying to score a try. He's not in his 20s anymore. His hamstring goes. That's what happens when you've got 100% debt if you're trying to build wealth on and continue to build wealth if you've got 100% debt on your family home.
It's something really important that we do talk to a lot of people about, isn't it? We see people every day that found the forever home. We've got a couple of kids now. We need something that's bigger. We're going to be there for 20 years. It's very, very exciting, but they don't understand the fundamentals between good debt and bad debt. And it's something that we harp on a lot about. What is good debt and what is bad debt? So originally, that first home that you bought, that you lived in, that was bad debt. You move out of it, it's going to be good debt at that point. Absolutely. But like you rightly said, you're borrowing 100% plus stamp duty, plus probably 20 grand to do a little bit of a reno and a freshen up on the new place. For a property that's $1 million, your $1.05 million loan is going to cost you a lot of your after-tax dollars.
A better way to do it would be to sell your first house. Now, this isn't personal advice, not taking into account anybody's circumstances, but if you were to sell the first place and take out all of the equity and have a smaller loan on your principal place of residence, the non-tax deductible debt, you want that as small or as close to zero as possible, as soon as possible. So if you can do that by selling a property, by all means, that might be the best strategy to do. You can still have your second investment property, because on the investment property, you can use and borrow 100% on it. So therefore, you may reduce the interest costs on your family home, but pick up the additional interest costs on your new investment property. We would rather 100% of the debt be on an investment property, which is good debt, rather than 100% of the debt be on your principal place of residence.
Spot on. And a lot of this comes with education and informing people of this, because they don't know. And the advice they've always got is that, that property will look after itself now. Again, correct, but we don't necessarily want it to look after itself. We might want it to be a little bit negative at the start, or we might be having discussions with them and their financial team around them about some more strategic investments that might be, instead of the home that they bought for $600,000 and borrowed $500,000 at that point, 5 years later, they've got a debt of $300,000. It's now worth $800,000. They're in a really, really good position. Use that $500,000 that you've got there, pay off the new owner-occupied down to just over $500,000. You've then got a lot of equity sitting there that's not being used. Go out and then buy a strategic investment in a location that you see potentially some more growth and upside, blue chip property that might be a little bit negatively geared, or go out and have a look at investments in more regional locations where you get a lot more bang for buck when it comes to the rental return, the ability to put a couple of bucks into it and renovate, or maybe even have a second income stream come in through a granny flat or a modular on the back, and all of a sudden you've got a very, very positively geared property.
It's a bit like the ball and chain. And this happens when you get the original ball and chain, being a new partner or a new wife or a new girlfriend or boyfriend. But a ball and chain with non-deductible debt is a killer, because you can't go and do anything. You touched on it, Jared, with after-tax dollars. And I've seen it with so many clients that they feel like they're struggling. They feel like they've got to work overtime. They feel like they've got to be at their maximum gain just to pay off this beautiful big family home that they've now got. They've got the investment property and it might be just ticking away. It might just, be covering itself. But you've got to go and pay such a large portion of your after-tax money on the family home. And if your wife now has kids, now you're down to one income. Jesus Christ, it feels like you are never going to get in front. And you might put yourself, you call it the lost decade if you go this strategy. It might be 10 years before you finish having children and your wife or your partner, could be your husband. I'd love it if my wife was the breadwinner and I could stay at home with the kids as well. Might be a topic for another day. But it would be great if we didn't lose that decade. So don't lose that decade. Be really smart with how you buy your family home and try and have as little debt as possible on it.
There's a lot of thought that goes into it, and people think that the increase that they're going to see in that owner-occupied property is a pillar of wealth as well, which to some extent it is, because that does form part of your total balance sheet, but it's not going to earn you income down the track. So I think being open to pivoting on investment strategies, if you do want to look at ways that you can reduce taxable income, retire earlier, get better use of your borrowing power and your ability to invest in locations, is going to be critical here as well.
The way that you build wealth, Jared, is to have surplus income, and you've got none if you've got 100% debt on your family home. I don't really care who you are. It's going to take a lot of income to do that. So get that debt down as close to zero as possible, as soon as possible. And I promise you, you're going to start to see your lifestyle come back. I mean, I would rather be having surplus income and I can go and have a trip to Bali or to Fiji with the family, or be not stressing about money. And we know that financial stress is one of the biggest causes of divorce in Australia. So take that away. Make sure that you're really smart with your family home, get as little debt on it as possible, build your wealth elsewhere. But don't just go, I can't sell a property, because if you can and it eases your life, fuck mate, go and do it.
And get strategic about your investments. Just because you own one doesn't mean you have to keep one for a long period of time.
It might be getting old too, that house. So there might be maintenance coming up, and before there's an extra $20,000 or $30,000 for a lick of paint or new carpet or new kitchen or new bathroom, piss it off. Get rid of it. Then you can get rid of your debt as quickly as possible and go out and buy something a little bit newer, something that doesn't need as much upkeep and ongoing costs, and live your life a little.
Looking at newer as well, if you're looking at something that either comes with a depreciation schedule given its age, or you can either renovate or put a second dwelling on there, you've also got a non-cash expense as well that's going to help with your tax situation.
Jared, you can only do that if you've got the surplus cash flow to allow you to do that.
I think it's time to get strategic about the way that we move into the second home and be open-minded when it comes to how we want to invest in the future.
As we started this podcast with, your first home that you live in is probably the worst asset that you're going to hold.
Thank you for tuning in to Your Wealth Playbook. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcast, hit follow and drop a 5-star rating and share this episode with a friend.
Help us reach more people and enhance the financial knowledge of our families, friends, and communities. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Just a reminder, the information in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or needs. Before making any financial or investment decisions, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for your circumstances and seek professional advice. Past performance is not an indicator of future performance.
If you'd like to discuss any of the points mentioned today in more detail, reach out to us directly and we would love to help and have a chat.